what I'm going to say is no surprise to anybody, but we live in a society that is all about more, accumulate. The more you have, the higher your status is, the more your value is, just, you know, more and more and more and more. I don't watch TV very often, like network television, because I can't stand commercials. But um, recently, I think my husband was watching something and the commercial came on, and it was literally like the, the whole thing was full of little squares and all these brightly different colors blinking frantically at you. And then the word in the middle was more, 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 more. But we're inundated. Like that's an extreme version, but I feel like it's gotten even worse as our attention has become split between so many things. When I was growing up, pretty much everybody watched the same five shows, so you had something, everyone was kind of like on the same cultural page in a lot of ways. But now, some people are not on Facebook, some people are on Instagram, some people do TikTok, some people don't watch network television. We're all over the place. Some people shut it all off. So I feel like in some ways it's gotten more intense, that desire for our control, our attention. But it's not just about the desire for our attention, it's also the messages that we're receiving, right? We hear it every year around Black Friday, right? I mean, we have a day in our year designated where businesses are like, yay, finally we're going to get over out of the red. Go buy stuff. You don't need it, but go buy it anyway. Make you feel like you need it, just this constant barrage of wanting the bigger house, the nicer car, getting to this level, and then, oh, that's not enough. Let's go further. We want this now. And there's no end to it. And in Buddhism, they have a sort of realm, if you will, for this kind of thing. And I'm not concerned so much about that. But the thing that's really interesting is they have these characters called hungry ghosts. And a hungry ghost, I'm going to read it here to make sure I get it right, but there are beings who are tormented by desire that can never be sated. I mean, that sounds like our world. That sounds like what we are in this position of being, right? When they're portrayed in Buddhist art, they're portrayed often with huge stomachs, tiny little mouths. They are constantly hungry, but they can't feed themselves because their mouths are too small, their throats are too small. And it's a really interesting, I think it's a really potent analogy for where we find ourselves in our society with this idea that we are just all little consumers. I remember I spent one summer in Amsterdam and I was so amazed by how when the sun came out, now they don't get a whole lot of sun, so I get that. When the sun came out, everybody dropped what they were doing and they went to the park. Like that doesn't happen here. We don't do that. Look, I'm not shaming us here. We're here, we're meditating. But I was driving here on the way here. There's hardly anybody outside. The weather is beautiful. So I'm not trying to compare us to them, but I'm saying it's not the only way we have to be. Other cultures have other ways of being. And that pursuit of constantly needing to, have the next thing, the newest iPhone, the next, the nicer car, the bigger house, whatever it is, it's an empty path. It's completely empty. It's lined with concrete and there is no soil. There is nothing there that nurtures us. Because once we get that thing, we're excited for a bit and then we get bored with it. And then it's on to the next thing. So I really like this image. If you're a visual person, having this image of this, like this being that's just really like got a huge distended stomach but can't feed itself is really, I think, apt for kind of how we're living. But the bigger question is, where does that come from? I mean, we know where it comes from externally. I just talked a lot about that. But it doesn't just come from external stimuli, right? There's also something happening within us that is allowing us to be pulled into that. And this is where we're talking about, in our society, we have a lot of blame around a lot of things toward people for certain things, also toward ourselves, because it's seen sort of as a weakness, oh, we can't resist this certain thing, or we can't do things that way, or, it becomes a sort of a blame that is not helpful. Blame doesn't help with anything. Like there's no point to it. But within us, that's a symptom, really. It's something that's echoing, our propensity to get pulled into that is an echo of something that we're lacking inside. And not really lack. I shouldn't say the word lack, because lack is it's a charged word. It's a disconnection, really, because we're not really lacking anything. Even when we're in our worst sort of starved states, there's no lack, but there is a disconnection. You know, we are out of touch with our true deep needs, out of touch with something within us. Or also, it can also be that we have gotten into this habit of covering over the pain that comes with that sort of disconnection and void, if you will, by engaging in these external activities that kind of fill us for a bit, right? Give us that dopamine hit that everybody talks about now. So it's not that we are lacking. It's not that there's anyone to blame necessarily. We are in the conditions we're in. We know that businesses want our money. They want our attention because it's money for them. We know that. We're not going to change that game. But what we can do is disengage from it. Change our relationship to it so that we can begin to understand and fill the things within us, but understand that we don't have to do that, right? We can pause and step back from engaging in that activity, even though it's still there, so we're not going to change it, and look inside, turn toward ourselves and say, okay, right now, what am I feeling? I'm feeling this need to go to the Apple store right now and get that new like $2,000 laptop that I so don't need, because my laptop is totally fine, even though it's 3 years old, right? What am I really feeling? I think there's this myth that only women are conditioned to shopping therapy. I think men have it too. It's a little different. It's maybe bigger stuff. I don't know. But just stopping for a minute and saying, okay, hold on a second. I know I don't really need that. So what am I feeling right now that is pushing me toward that momentum? Maybe I'm bored. Boredom is a neutral state, but it's an uncomfortable state. We don't like to be there. There's nothing happening. But boredom is a very rich place to start, because creativity is born out of boredom. So maybe we're bored. Maybe we're sad. Maybe we're lonely. And what we really want is just to be around people. And when we go out to the Apple store, well, we all know how many people are in the Apple store. So instead of acting on that, we can start to change our relationship to what is actually happening within us. And this is where free will comes in. Like, we actually have free will, yes, but do we often act from it? No, it's not automatic. This is my theory. So we recognize it, we sit with it. And that's hard to do, sitting with those hard feelings, sitting with the discomfort of whatever is coming up that is encouraging us to act in a certain way is really hard, because we're not used to doing it and we don't want to feel it, right? We don't want to feel the anger. We don't want to feel anxiety. We don't want to feel lonely. We don't want to feel any of those things. But those are signals. They're telling us something, right? They need attention. So when those things can come up, we create space to allow ourselves to be with those things, to be with the emotions, to be with the dullness if we're feeling like a little blah. And it will start to tell us what it needs. And when we're in the beginning of learning to do this, we aren't hearing the messages. It's like learning a new language, you know. We don't understand what it's saying because we haven't learned the language or we've ignored it for so long. So it's a slow process of learning to first understand what is happening, recognize what's happening, and then allowing ourselves to be with it and just settle into it, listen to it. And the more we can do that, the closer we get to reconnecting ourselves. I like this often in the teachings that I listen to, they talk about remembering. The word remembering is remembering because it's really about reconnecting ourselves, right? Remembering our heads to our bodies, our mind and body connection. So in this way, we can stop ourselves from being little hungry ghosts, right? They're like fed by, you know, corporations and marketing people and advertisers. And we really don't need anything, especially in the United States. There are very few people in this country that need anything. We are all well fed. We have all our basic needs met in this country. But, it's human nature to feel like we need to, constantly provide, work toward, get, all of that stuff that's just innate in humans. So we have people manipulating us, basically. So it's really desire. Desire is natural and innate to all of us, but it's when directed outward at things that don't, that have really no true value to us, it can become a real, it's like a hamster wheel, right? Of trying to gain status or find happiness through these external things that it's all illusion, right? It's all illusion. So let's go ahead and have a sit. I invite you to come into your seated posture, and you're welcome to have your eyes closed or a soft gaze on the floor in front of you. And begin by taking in 3 deep inhales and exhales at your own pace. And then just allow your breath to come back into its natural rhythm. Just noticing how your body feels in this moment, dropping any judgment that might come up, letting any stories or thoughts that come into your mind just float through without getting hooked. Noticing how it feels to be fully present in this moment right now. Bringing the awareness to the feet on the floor. Noticing the sensations around the feet. Maybe the texture of the mat below you, the temperature created by the pressure of your feet or your ankles on top of each other. And bringing your awareness next to your ankles. And if they're crossed, just noticing the sensations of the ankles touching. Moving up into the knees. Continuing to scan the awareness up the legs, into the hips. Noticing the way the seat feels below you. Continuing to scan up your body into your stomach and lower back, into your stomach, your torso and middle back. Just noticing along the way how your body feels. Continuing to scan up into the upper back and the chest, the shoulders, and the collarbone area. Pausing momentarily to notice if there's any additional tension you're holding here that can be let go. Moving up through the neck, into the jaw. Again, pausing here to notice if you're holding any tension, if you're clenching your jaw. If so, letting that go. Continuing up to your mouth and your nose, and your cheeks and eyes, forehead. Allowing your awareness to rest at the top of your head. Noticing any sensations that are present at the top of the head. You may feel the temperature of the room, the weight of your hair, or just a general sense of some sensation there that perhaps you can't name. Imagining you have a small bubble at the top of your head. It's very elastic. And right now, the only thing in it are the sensations at the top of your head. And we'll begin to visualize that bubble expanding to include not just the sensations of the head, but also the sensations of the eyes. Noticing if there's any subtle tension around the muscles of the eyes. Continuing to allow the bubble to grow, to include the top of the head and the eyes, as well as the jaw and everything in between. Just doing this with a gentle sensing without a sense of striving or pushing hard. Continuing to grow the bubble of awareness to include the neck and the shoulders. Growing it further to add the sensations in the torso, the chest and back. Imagining your body as the bubble of awareness grows. You're beginning to see yourself more. Seeing the sense of yourself, not the physical necessarily, not the visual. Continuing to expand the circle of awareness to include your hips and your sits bones. And also allowing yourself to notice if any emotions come up as we go through this exercise. Just noticing if they're there. Continuing to grow the bubble of awareness to include the legs, the knees, and expanding at last to include your calves and shins, your ankles, your feet. Imagine that you are enveloped in this bubble of awareness from head to toe, allowing yourself to be fully present in the sensations of the body, wrapped in your awareness, just floating, free of worry, free of concern and responsibility. All of those things dropped like a boulder and onto the ground, no longer weighing you down. You may begin to notice one particular sensation is more prominent than the others. Let that be the anchor in your body, the place you move your awareness to, that you rest the awareness in, the refuge that anchors you in your body and in the present moment. Notice all the sensations around this particular place. Feelings of pressure, texture, temperature, perhaps emotion, perhaps color, whatever may be there. Just allow the awareness sense to recognize it. As you're resting in this anchor of awareness, you may notice from time to time that you've been taken away from it, often by thought, by an emotion, by a sound, discomfort. And when that happens, just know that that's perfectly normal. Allow yourself to recognize that you've left very gently, without judgment or force. Bring your awareness back to the anchor. If you notice emotions come up, perhaps pull you into a story, again, just recognize you've left your anchor. Gently bring yourself back. And perhaps allow the emotion to just sit there without engaging in it, while you maintain the awareness in the present moment in the body. As we come into the final moments of the meditation, I invite you, if it feels right for you, to place your hand on your chest over your heart and sensing the support of your body under your hand, the aliveness, the presence. Extend yourself gratitude. Gratitude for recognizing what you need, for creating space in your day to listen, and being open to learning what it is you really deeply need. I'll close out this meditation, this poem, Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me your despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, and the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clear blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. When you're ready, you're welcome to open your eyes, come back into the room.